Hey guys, Chandler here. It's been a very long time, and this is a much owed, long overdue explanation about where I've been. Since last August, I have been working nearly 24/7 on my new feature-length documentary, Journey to the UFC, Joe Pyfer. And how I went from being a magician on YouTube to someone who directs feature-length films, that story is wild in itself, and you guys have got to witness a lot of that. But before I get started explaining myself, let me show you a clip from the red carpet world premiere of my film. And yes, you will be able to watch this film on your TV very soon. I've known Joe for 10 years. And ever since I met Joe back in high school, I always kind of viewed him as a superhero. His whole story, his whole journey is the classic hero's arc. We've all seen superhero movies, right? Batman, Superman, the Avengers. When we go into those movies, we know that the good guys are gonna win. No matter what, the good guys are gonna come out on top. But we still go and see them because they're professional writers and filmmakers in Hollywood who go in their rooms and try and come up with the most impossible, incredible odds that they have to beat, that they have to overcome to achieve their goals. But the difference between that and Joe is that that's a work of fiction. Everything that you're seeing in this documentary is real things that Joe Pyfer overcame and beat. And I personally think if I took this story and presented it to a Hollywood director as a work of fiction, they would say, no. That's unbelievable. That's too much for one person to overcome. But Joe did it, and that's why we're here today.
I knew right away that this was a guy whose life's journey and his journey to greatness in this sport was definitely worthy of a documentary, so I was just excited to see that someone took it upon themselves to make it happen.
Let's give you the background. What happened that led me to that moment and why I've been gone for so long. Joe Pyfer is an old friend of mine. We've known each other for 10 years. We met when we were both 16 years old back in high school. Since that time, we've stayed friends, and he has pursued his dream of becoming a professional fighter in the UFC. In the meantime, I've been pursuing my dream of becoming a film director, and our careers have always stayed intertwined throughout our friendship. In fact, some of you OG Rise Magic fans might remember that 5 years ago I made a documentary on Joe Pyfer back when I was a student and just learning how to make a documentary, and that film ended up placing second place in the country for Documentary of the Year in a student film competition. That's how I got my career truly started in film, through doing that story on Joe, and Joe continued his path to become a professional fighter. While I was proud of that documentary and the story it told at the time, the bottom line is I was using a $300 camera to make that film. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just acting based off of instinct and things that I had learned while making these YouTube videos here on Rise Magic. So if we fast forward 5 years since then, Joe's story, which is already so compelling, there were so many additional twists and turns on his journey to the UFC. And in that same time frame, I was working as a professional filmmaker, working with people like Tony Ferguson, Ioana Young-Jacek, honing my skills and talents, which brought us to last summer. So in broad scope summary, Joe and I have always helped each other advance our careers. One of my biggest regrets, or at least it was one of my biggest regrets, was that when I did that documentary on Joe 5 years ago that I just posted on my YouTube channel, I was just learning how to make films. And Joe's story, I have always believed, is a Hollywood, incredible superstar comeback story. And I was always like, dang it, I wish I could have done that film now, when I have so much more resources, talent, and skills to actually make a high-level documentary that could make its way onto TV, to really do Joe's story justice. And then this past summer, it dawned on me, there's no reason I can't. Without spoiling the story of Joe's career had skyrocketed last summer, and that idea of remaking that documentary, not just remaking, but making something entirely new with 5 more years of story onto it. It was something I became obsessed with until one day, August 28th at 1:28 a.m., I text Joe a monster of a 5-paragraph essay about my idea. Now, Joe and I work on a lot of stuff together, so this is not uncommon, but this was my pitch. I'm like, hey man, we can do this again. and we're gonna do it big this time. We're gonna do it right this time, and we're gonna get this on a big streaming platform, your story. And Joe, being one of my best friends, was like, yeah, of course. I have no doubt that you could do that. He believed in me that I could make this happen. And an idea was born. Okay, now this is the wildest part of the story. Joe and I had no one interested in this film. We didn't have any connections, we didn't have anything set up beforehand that if we made this big film, that someone was gonna buy it and put it on a streaming platform. We just went off the idea that I think Joe's story is incredible, and Joe thought I was capable of telling it in a high-level manner. And we bet on ourselves and took a gamble to make the film without any buyers, without anyone pre-set up, just on the hope and belief that we could make it happen. My belief was, if I go all in on this and make something to the best of my ability, hopefully I'll make something that's too good to ignore. This is also the time when I decided no more YouTube. Because I believe if you are truly putting all your chips on the table, you better be 100% invested in it. And I knew there was no way I could maintain this YouTube channel and make this film at the same time. I also needed to finish the film before the end of the year, because I knew since we didn't have anyone set up, I would need to spend a lot of time at the start of 2023 pitching the final film around. So not only did I need to make the best thing I've ever made in my life, but in the shortest amount of time I've ever allotted for myself to make a feature-length film. So production starts. Joe and I are all in on this idea, and that's where the chaos begins. I went to Vegas and Philadelphia to film with this project. And of course, you guys know I've had a pretty serious stomach condition for the majority of my adult life. And sometimes it flares up, sometimes I'm okay. It's a lot like Crohn's disease. Well, of course, when we're in Vegas with Joe filming, I get incredibly sick. I relapse very hard on my sickness. I remember Joe and I were out driving Lamborghinis after he won his fight, and I needed to get out of the car, and it was bad. And that's when the panic sets in of, man, am I gonna be able to stay healthy enough to see this project through? The pressure was on to perform. Getting sick and not being able to do this was not an option I could accept. So I gotta work while sick. I gotta work through this. I get home and I start editing parts of the project while I'm not even finished filming it, just to make sure I could be moving in the most time-efficient manner possible. Then all of a sudden, one of the biggest blessings of my life takes place. My wife Whitney gets pregnant. It's our first child. Now I want to be clear when I say this. No doctor ever told me I wouldn't be able to have kids. But I had been so sick for 10 plus years of my life. So many x-rays, MRIs, losing weight, gaining weight, being close to on my deathbed at times. I kind of always was scared in the back of my head that I wouldn't be able to have kids. So I was over the moon excited. This was the greatest day of my life when I found out I was going to have a son. However, the stakes just got raised even more. I'm going all in on this film. No one even knows about it. I don't know if people are gonna buy it after the fact. And now I have a son that I'm gonna have to provide for next year, which is an incredible blessing, but it's a lot of pressure. And believe it or not, things got even worse after that when it comes to the pressure and stakes that I was under. My wife Whitney, 2 weeks into her pregnancy, gets diagnosed with hyperemesis, which is an extremely debilitating disease that you can get while you're pregnant. You basically have morning sickness 24/7. So now during this time frame where I have just gone all in on myself and my career, I need to be editing 14 hours a day, 10 hours a day, pulling all-nighters to finish this project. I'm spending my time during the day making sure my wife isn't going to die after throwing up, no exaggeration, 30 times in a day. We took many trips to the ER. We had many times where we had to go to the ER at 3, 4 a.m. seeing if we lost the baby. It was the most stressful time in my life, and it was in that time that I was also staying up all night to make this film. The pressure and stress was unbearable at times, I'll be honest. And the most frustrating part about it was that this was all risk that I put on myself. No one asked me to make this film. I had this idea and I put all this pressure on myself, and then I get sick and my wife gets sick and my wife has to quit her job and go on a leave of absence for disability because she is so sick. We're almost losing the baby. And then I have to finish this film before the end of the year because that's a deadline I set for myself because I knew if we need to sell it, we need to get it done as quickly as possible. So I'm filming on this project all the way through Thanksgiving. I actually did a shoot on Thanksgiving Day. As you guys know, Whitney and I live in Florida, and when Christmas came around, I was literally too sick to go home. I didn't want Whitney to miss out on Christmas with her family members, so I flew her home and I stayed home and edited for about 10 hours on Christmas Day. I seriously worked 4 to 5 months straight through to get this thing done, and I finally finished the film on December 28th, 2022. So the film is done, and what's crazy is that was the easy part. For me, telling stories and bringing out that powerful emotion through music and editing and cinematography, I love doing that. It actually became an escape from the stress in my life at that time, and I truly think the desperation and the pressure that I was under during the times of creating this film really helped me make the best film I've ever made. However, now I have this big project that I spent almost a half year on, and I gotta see if someone will put it out. Through Joe, through his agent, through other connections, we blast this documentary out to all the important people we can to see if someone will take it up. But to give you an idea of how long it was, I finished that film on December 28th, 2022, and finally, in the middle of April, one of the best companies that could ever have acquired the film, Disruptive Sports Group, steps in. This was a time where I really felt God's presence in my life because of the stress, because of the trauma that Whitney and I had gone through over the past months over making this film, over what was happening in our personal lives, after how sick she was, after we lost her source of income due to her being so sick. We were all in on my career in a way that I didn't even think I would go all in. And that bet paid off. That brings us to May 4th, 2023, the world premiere of my film, Journey to the UFC, Joe Pyfer. This event was unbelievably cool, hosted by Disruptive Sports Group. They put this amazing premiere together. You saw some clips at the start of this. First class event through and through. Shout out to Alex Davis, Marty Fish, Bonnie Taylor, and all those people at Disruptive Sports Group and Talent Resources. It was unbelievable. We had Laura Sanko there from the UFC hosting a Q&A with Joe and I after the screening. There was so much food and fun things to do, and the photo ops, the red carpet, signing posters, signing autographs to the movie posters, guys. It was unbelievable. And let me just say, I don't want to make this video super long and take away from the purpose of it, which is just updating you on where I've been in this exciting new project. As I said before, I think the pressure truly helped me make a better product in the end, but as a person, how I deal with stress, my relationship with God, the people that I have in my life who can support me and guide me and give me wisdom through these circumstances. It was the most revealing and transformative time in my life. And even if my big all-in bet failed, which it didn't, but if it did fail, I can walk away saying, wow, the skills, the mental toughness, the spiritual need that I developed during those times will carry me through and help me through tough situations in the rest of my life. I'll put it like this. If I were to pray to God during these tough times and ask for strength, God's not gonna just make me strong. He's gonna give me obstacles, circumstances, and things that I need to overcome that will make me strong. And I think that patience and that faith that I had to exude during those times that I didn't have, I can't take credit and say I handled it well. I didn't, and that's why I learned from all of it. So not only am I excited for you guys to see this film in a couple months, but I'm also excited for you guys to see the type of person that I have become, and I can show that here on YouTube and share some of the things that I've learned. But for now, I just want to say that I am thankful for the trials and the tests and the troubles that I had to endure the past 6 months. So without rambling, I learned a lot, and I can't wait to show you guys more. Now for the future, where can you watch this film? Well, I can't tell you all that right now. All I can say is in the next couple of months, you'll be able to watch it on your TV, somewhere big. That's all I can say, that's all I'm allowed to say, and I can't say really anything much else, but Joe and I have been doing press for the film since that big premiere. We've even gone on Sports Illustrated. I'll leave those articles linked in the description if you want to read any of the press interviews we've done. Joe's gone on Ariel Helwani, stuff like that to promote this project. It has been exceptional. I really can't wait for you guys to see it. Now for YouTube, this channel Rise Magic. Big changes are coming. I have a lot of big plans and I'm ready to come back full force, but a lot differently. And I'm excited to share those plans with you, but we'll save that for next week's video. For now, I can't wait for you guys to see my film, It's amazing that you guys have been all on this journey with me as I start as a YouTuber, me and Grant making Cardistry and Magic YouTube videos, and now I'm a legit director making feature-length films. Thanks to you guys. So, I hope you guys have a blessed one, and I'll see you next week.